Oh, look out now. It's the Bourbon and Banter podcast, the biggest and most honest podcast in all of bourbon. That's right, friends and neighbors. We got everything you need to drink curious right here. So sit back, grab a pour, and check your feelings at the door, because we're here to lay it down for you as only Bourbon and Banter can. And now here come your hosts, not only the most honest team in bourbon, but the biggest stars too. And by stars, we mean large, gassy objects that can be seen from far, far away. Fresh off a buffet of bratwurst, sauerkraut, and beer cheese, they're burning brighter than ever, folks. Here we go.
You know what, Bob? We are not only the most honest and the biggest podcast in all of bourbon, we are also the most mimicked. I'm sorry. I meant to say mimicked, as in copied podcast.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, that's right. We are.
That's right. I'd go into it, but, that'd take us to be like a 4-part series or something about it, and I really don't want to pursue the topic any further.
No, we don't have time. We're just here for the pursuit of the truth.
That's right. So let's get into it. So, you survived Bourbon Heritage Month okay? You look all right.
I did. I made it through, man. Made it through. I think I've been doing this now 5 or 6 years before I even joined you all. So it's always a fun time, and it's something that we enjoy immensely.
Well, at the end of the day, we are professionals. And I want to give a big round of applause to all of our listeners and followers and friends for surviving as well. If you survived with no ill effect, you too are a professional. And if you had a little bit of ill effect, don't worry. There's always next year you can reach professional status. All it takes is practice.
That's right. Practice makes perfect.
Well, speaking of Bourbon Heritage Month, I thought it'd be really cool to kind of recap a couple things and let everybody know how we did. You ready for that?
Let's do this.
All right. So it was another fantastic year from a participation perspective. We had over 1.2 million giveaway entries. Wrap your head around that number. 1.2 million giveaway entries. And that came from just under 15,000 individual users. So kudos to everyone for entering and doing all the extra work to get additional entries. Hopefully it paid out for you. We do have some winners we want to announce, but along with that, we had 18.8 million social media impressions, reaching just under 8 million people based on the metrics we pulled for that. So that's pretty significant. For the 30 Days of Bourbon Challenge specifically, where people are posting their calendars online and tracking their progress, we were able to identify just a little over 4,000 individual participants who downloaded that calendar and started filling out. Now, I can't tell you they all made it to the end of the month, but if you did make it, you know who you are, and, well, we salute you.
I saw more calendars this year than I've ever seen before, so kudos to you all.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. And we have a couple of winners to announce. We had, every week we pick a swag pack winner. And so the individual week winners were Chase Hamilton, Abby Bowman, Steve Asmussen, and I hope I spelled that correctly, Steve, Michael Spaggi, Shell McKelvey, and then our mega swag pack winner was Ashley Sammons. So congratulations to all of you. And I just want to point out that other people won, but they didn't fucking open their email, Bob. We send them winner notifications and they don't reply.
Yeah, people are not, they're letting it go to wherever. They're not checking their email. You want to win free shit and free whiskey and free bourbon, and you don't check your stuff, then that means that Pops and I get to keep it all. See, that's what happens. If you're not going to open it all.
Like I need more shit.
And I'm telling you, those are some nice T-shirts, boy. You cut about 3 or 4 of those and put them together. You get one shirt for me and Pops. So they're nice. It's nice stuff.
Well, folks, we hope that's a lesson learned, right? Because we got these winners who are going to get some nice swag packs, some stuff directly shipped from some of our distillery partners as well. And it could have been you. In fact, 6 months from now, when you finally clean out your spam folder and you find that email letting you know you won, you know what? You can go drink some Slapdick for all I care, because you didn't check your email early and often.
I'm surprised too, because that bottle of William LaRue Weller, you had that vertical from 2015 to 2019, and the winner didn't claim it, so here it goes back to us.
That's right. That goes back into the kitty for the team. Absolutely. But truly, folks, we want to thank you for your participation this year. It was bigger and better than ever. And no matter where I went, I was able to run into bourbon lovers, and they were all participating. And that's really, really cool to see for something that we created out of nothing many, many years ago. And so for next year, you've got, just under a year to prep your liver, to practice, to do interval training, if you will, whatever's necessary, so you can hang with us for 30 days of bourbon next year. And we really hope that you'll help recruit some additional friends to join us for that adventure in 2022. All right, so moving along, we have a couple other updates for you. As you know, we have a single barrel club, and we just fulfilled our picks of Rebel, Old Ezra, and 1792. And Bob, what do you think about those releases?
I enjoyed them immensely and am continuing to enjoy them. And I tell you what, man, I just picked up the 1792 from Pops. I haven't had a chance to crack it open yet. And I've had the two Luxco picks, the Old Ezra and the Rebel, and I was really surprised how good that Rebel was. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be bad, but it is mighty, mighty tasty. And it's a very affordable barrel strength. You don't get too many barrel strength weeders to begin with. So that one I was really surprised by. I was pleasantly surprised by. So yeah, if you have an opportunity and have not grabbed one of those, if they've got any left, I don't know that they have any left, but the Rebel and the Old Ezra and the 1792 Full Proof is one of my favorites. So and the team that picked these really did a fantastic job. I think it was all the barbecue and the hot dogs leading into the tasting that really propelled you all to pick these fantastic barrels. So, going back on that whole trip, the Yellowstone pick that you did, the Four Roses pick you did, they've all been excellent this year.
Well, thank you for that. We tend to have a pretty good palate as a collective group, which is always fun to see. We don't have to argue too much on what picks we prefer. But unfortunately, I think all the bottles are gone. We always, set some back and let our retail partner put them out on the shelves. And I believe they've already been put out and gone. But you never know. You might find one in the wild one of these days. If you do, obviously, let us know what you think. And if you're in the Single Barrel Club and you haven't chimed in yet with feedback, please make sure via the Slack community, let us know what you think of the barrel picks. We've got a couple left this year. We've got an Old Pepper Rye that's coming in, and we are redoing our Old Forester single barrel because the original one that we picked, there was a mishap with the distributor, so the barrel got split up and divided, and all sorts of weird supply chain shit happened, which, that happened a couple years ago on that Wild Turkey pick as well. But we're glad to say we're being given another one, so we'll get that wrapped up this year. And we are still pursuing, and I'm now working directly with Wyoming Whiskey, trying to secure that private barrel pick of that whiskey, which I know, Bob, you and I are really gung-ho about getting that one done.
We are very excited about that. That talking about, cast strength weeders, that is a fantastic pour and a very unique pour. That's unlike anything else that I've ever tasted. So those Wyoming picks are great.
So if you're interested in getting in on our Single Barrel Club action, there's two ways you can join. One, you can go to patreon.com/bourbon banter and sign up there directly. Or if you want a little bit more information, go to bourbonbanter.com, click on resources, and then Single Barrel Club, and you can read more information about it there as well. And as always, got a question? Drop us an email at podcast@bourbonbanter.com, and we'll glad to help out. Now, I mentioned our Slack community when talking about the single barrel clubs, and I wanted to give an update. We started opening this up a little bit more to listeners and fans, and we're up to about 350 members now in the Slack group, so we've grown tremendously in the last couple of weeks, and we still have applications to review, so there's still going to be some people added, but we're going to lock off entry not to exceed 500 people at this time, and we're going to kind of see how it goes from there. So if you have not applied yet, go to our Instagram, go through our Twitter, find the post there, and you'll be able to find the instructions on how to sign up for that. And if you don't get in this round, hey, don't fret. We've got your name. It's on file, and we'll come back to you as soon as we're able to do that. But the community is a great place to be. Once again, we're creating this off of Facebook, off those standard social channels, because quite frankly, we're tired of the bullshit that comes with those. And we wanted to create a place where there was no bullshit, no crotch shots, no bullying, no thread shitting. And I think we've delivered on that so far. But what I love about the community is when we share news and information, whether it comes from a Bourbon and Banter team member or a member of the community, everybody jumps in and you never know where the conversation is going to go. And a kind of a quick example of that is there was an article that came out a couple weeks ago It's kind of a puff piece about how Peyton Manning was calling liquor stores to get them to actually stock his Sweetens Cove bourbon.
His $200 Dickel reject.
Right. That he's having to call people to make that happen, which if you believe that, I got some bridges for sale. But what I loved was when I posted it and kind of made a little fun of it and called it out bullshit. We actually have a channel called Bullshit where we put stuff like this, and we put it in there, and suddenly there was this whole conversation around how, along with Sweeten Coves, how Marianne Eves, who blended that product for them, is often referred to as Kentucky's first female master distiller. And this since Prohibition. Yes, thank you very much. And this conversation came up about calling how that was bullshit, and when is Pam Heilman from Michter's going to be given her credit? Ultimately someone came in and the quote that I put in there said, "I love that an article on Peyton Manning's ridiculous overpriced whiskey launches a conversation about giving credit to a truly deserving woman of whiskey." I mean, I love this group, man.
Hey, that's a beautiful thing. And it was hysterical because you're talking about Peyton Manning making these cold calls, and it delves into, okay, why is Pam not getting the credit that she so richly deserves? It wasn't a negative thing about Eves, but it was about, okay, look, Pam got to Michter's, was doing this first. So, and she had 15 years running the Booker No plant for Beam, and she's but she doesn't care about
titles, right?
That kind of, could care less about anything like that. So,
well, the other thing to take away from this is not only did it go to I think a well-educated and deserving space with the comment about her, but also the fact that it wasn't a conversation about, well, how do I get a bottle, right? I really want to get a bottle. Somebody flip me a bottle, because that's not what our community is about. Obviously we want to help each other. If you're trying to get something, we'll always do that, but we're not the place to go if all you want to do is track down a bottle, right? You want to have conversations. You want to ask, well, what did Pam do? If you don't know about Pam, dig into her past, right? And we have plenty of people in the community are going to be able to help you with that and dive a little bit deeper. So if that's your jam and that's what you want to get into and you're tired of all that other bullshit, it's a great place to be. And like I said, check our Instagram and Twitter feeds for information how you can sign up. And with a little luck, we'll get you in here sooner than later.
And I don't think there's anybody on any group asking, where can I find that Sweetens Cove? That's I mean, all I see is pictures of it on a shelf 6 deep everywhere. Ain't nobody having a problem finding that ridiculously overpriced whiskey.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. I you know what? I haven't had it yet. And I've had no desire to go get it myself. So I can get on board with that thought process. One last update. Many of you have attended our online whiskey classes, and really, really appreciative of that support. And hopefully people have had a good time with those. Unfortunately, we're having to put those on hold. Our last class actually held on October 11th, and we won't have any more before the end of the year. The platform we were using to host these classes is going out of business. So we're going to take the time to double down and focus on some other things, but we look to get those back up and running in 2022. But if you have any thoughts on what you would like to see from an online class and learning opportunity, we would love to hear from you. So drop that note to us, podcast@bourbonbanter.com, and tell us what you're looking for in some online learning. And we'll see, with the help of our team, we can put that together for you and get that launched in Q1 of next year. So, Bob, that said, the one last thing I want to say before we move to the next segment is, about a week and a half ago, Brent Joseph and Aaron Petrie and myself, we took a little road trip out to Manassas, Virginia, and we spent a couple days out at KO Distilling out there, and had an absolutely fantastic time hanging out with the folks at the distillery. And we spent those days shooting a lot of content. We did some interviews, we did some tour videos, we did some cocktail videos, drank a lot of whiskey, had a really good time, and we're going to have a lot to share here soon about that visit, including our first ever dedicated distillery interview, right? Actually recorded on scene. We had you connect in remotely. And so that'll be coming soon. So if you are someone who is interested in the emerging and evolving craft distillery scene, This is going to be a great set of content that's coming out, and you're definitely going to want to tune in for that because they've got some very cool things happening out at that distillery, and going to be really thrilled to share it with you in November. So that said, let's go ahead, and it's time for the whiskey news. All right, first up in the whiskey news, file this under what the fuck were they thinking? Apparently, Luxco has decided to rename the Lawrenceburg, Indiana facility that we all know as MGP as Ross and Squibb Distillery.
Now, didn't MGP buy Luxco? Luxco didn't buy MGP. If I remember correctly, if you look back in your texts, folks, I thought that it was the other way around, but then since it happened, Luxco has taken over everything. So I don't know, because, people are going to know Ross and Squibb, certainly. I think we should just say, screw them and just start calling it LDI again.
Well, that would definitely confuse people. But Bob, you are not wrong, my friend. You're absolutely right. MGP did buy Luxco, but we need to remember something here very, very important. When they did that, they fired all their brand and marketing people at MGP. Right? They let them all go.
I know.
So
why do you think I'm so pissed about this whole fucking thing?
So Luxco's team is now taking that over. So they're positioning Luxco as the name. And this is very clear from what they're doing here, positioning Luxco and now Ross and Squibb Distillery, because it just flows off my tongue,
sure.
As the consumer facing. So the details of it is basically what they say here is, Luxco announced it will rename the 174-year-old Lawrenceburg, Indiana distiller of its branded spirits, Ross and Squibb Distillery, as it joins the Luxco family of brands. So they're moving Rossville Union, George Remus into the Luxco family of brands, right? And so when you talk about those products, the labels will start to reflect George Remus is going to be distilled or produced at Ross and Squibb Distillery. It'll be no longer be at MGP. MGP will continue to produce all of their whiskeys and other products under the MGPI name, and the Ross and Squibb will be for the consumer-facing products that they put out on their own. Now, apparently, this Ross pays tribute to the legacy of George Ross, who founded the Rossville Distillery in 1847, and then Squibb calls back to the historic Squibb Distillery, which was founded in 1869 in Lawrenceburg, and then was purchased by George Remus in 1921. So once again, there's a tie. So once again, as a recovering marketer myself, I can see where this made perfect sense on paper. But Ross and Squibb beats the fuck out of me. I don't know what else to say.
I just I can't wrap my head or tentacles or whatever the fuck this is. Squibb. I think squid. I think of the thing shooting out ink and fucking around in the ocean. That's what I think of when I see this. But, you talked about, yes, MGP did buy Luxco, and then they fired all their marketing folks. And how many times did we talk to the folks from Rossville and Remus in the last, 2 years since that happened? Almost 2 years. 0. So we had a really good relationship with the brand team from MGP, and they did great work, and they make great whiskey. And then all this stuff just comes up, and people are losing their. I don't know. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole with this because I don't need to get this angry this early.
What's the bullshit segment? That's right. Hold your anger back. Feed it. Feed the beast. Well, anyway, so file that under what the fuck, because that is odd. And confusing, and obviously we hope it works out, but I think a few more rounds of revision would have been helpful.
We really want to fuck with people. Call it the Seagram's MGP Distillery.
Oh, why don't we just go all the way back? No, never mind. There's reasons we don't want to go there. That's a whole nother episode. All right, speaking of more clueless fuckery, came across an article that said Canadian distillers battle with the Scotch Whisky Association heats up. So I'm like, what the fuck does the Scotch Whisky Association have with the Canadian distillers? Well, apparently the Scotch Whisky Association is very similar to our friends over at Sazerac in that they're very litigious and very protective of things. So they've basically been suing, most recently at least, the Vancouver Island's most award-winning Macalone's Caledonian Distillery. Talk about a mouthful.
I can say that 5 times fast.
Macalone Caledonian. Macalone, whatever.
I need to plug in Caledonia by B.B. King right here.
Didn't like Caledonia used to be like an airline or something?
Caledonia!
British
What
Caledonian.
make your big head
Anyway.
so high?
But apparently they don't like the fact that they are using words, specifically the Scotch Whisky Association, a history of going after small craft distillers who wish to celebrate their family or local Scottish diaspora heritage, including Nova Scotia's Glennorah Distillery and others across the world, with the threat of involving them in lengthy, costly lawsuits. So apparently if anyone uses names and or images, whether real or fictitious, which are evocative of Scotland's, including the owner's family name Macalone, the term island, the Gaelic words Inver and Glen, which, by the way, are also widely used in Ireland, Scotland, and Canada, and Caledonian, which, by the way, is the original name given to the province of British Columbia. So if you use any of those words, the Scottish Whisky Association wants to sue you and prevent you from using those because it will cause confusion with Scotch whiskey. So once again, associations, groupings, whatever you want to call them, can be a very good thing and a very positive force for change and keeping the peace. But when they start suing anybody for shit like this, I have to call bullshit, even though it's part of the whiskey news. And I really hope that the Canadian distillers come out on top. Apparently there's been a couple previous cases where they did win. And the SWA needs to just keep themselves on their side of the pond.
But this only happened after Macalone's whiskeys started to win awards and international acclaim. That's when the Scottish Whisky Association filed its claims.
Right.
So it's like, okay, as long as nobody knows who you are, we don't care. But the minute somebody knows who you are, we're going to take your shit. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know which is worse, getting sued preemptively by Sazerac or after you get some attention by the Scotch Whisky Association.
I don't know.
Well,
need to calm the fuck down. Go drink their whiskey.
I think I need to go create an SWA t-shirt and see what happens. All right. So we think we have it bad in our whiskey world. Apparently, the tequila world is creating some new challenges. And there was an article that came out called The Big Tequila Problem. I don't know if there's only one or if there's multiple, but apparently, you can't trust what you're drinking. So when we think about bourbon and all the things that whiskey has gone through over the years, go back to 1897 with the Bottled in Bond Act and kind of putting rectifiers in their place and getting to a point where we trust our whiskey. Apparently a little bit more of the Wild West with tequila. So if you're familiar with tequila, you know what I'm talking about. But apparently since tequila has been taking off, Diageo just recently mentioned they're putting $500 million into expanding their tequila production capabilities. A lot of companies are cutting corners and putting a lot of things into the tequila to accelerate the agave's aging process and diluting the product with low-cost sugar-based spirits, from everything from synthetic additives to mimic flavor profiles, and a variety of other things to even stimulate or artificially age it from a color perspective. So once again, it sounds like we're back in the late 1800s with tequila, comparing it to whiskey. And a lot of people are drinking and paying top dollars for things which are, less than honest tequilas.
So Diageo's putting $500 million into their tequila production, but what that doesn't tell you is there's a large portion of that is being spent on their super sleuth team, because they've got some barrels in some of their warehouses in the back of tequila that's been sitting there undiscovered for years, and they're going to find that out. So it's not the Orphan Barrel series, but the Orphan Agave series, I think, is coming out from Diageo, from what I've heard.
Oh, yes, the OAS, the Orphan Agave series.
Yes, OAS, correct.
That's right. Well, that's an interesting conspiracy theory you got there, my friend. The $500 million.
I don't have conspiracy theories. I have facts.
All right. Well, we are not super well versed in tequila, so we're just going to call that out, leave it out there, And I'm sure someone's going to come back and school us a little bit and say this is nothing new. But just remember, a little education goes a long way. We believe in drinking curious. So if you want to drink tequila, that's totally cool. I enjoy a nice pour of tequila as well. But make sure you know what you're drinking so you're not that guy sitting at the bar paying $80 a shot for shit that is also bottled as a $10 bottle of tequila that you can get down at your quick store anytime you want. So don't be that guy. In terms of being that guy, we talked about Sazerac and their overly litigious nature. But apparently Buffalo Trace is standing up for the little guy, for the consumer, because they have continued to warn fans of potential online scams. That's right. Buffalo Trace not only took responsibility for single-handedly trying to shut down the secondary market of bourbon on Facebook, which we all really think they did a bang-up job on that and really solved that problem for the industry. They're apparently now warning people of potential online scams because, the old adage of if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't good enough. So Buffalo Trace is putting out efforts to help shut down these online scammers who are telling you that they can ship you your favorite hard-to-get Buffalo Trace product at amazingly low prices today. Just Cash App me the money and I'll send it to you. And oh my God, people are stunned when they don't get their whiskey, Bob. Can you believe that?
I can't believe anyone would have such an issue happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They've even gone as far to remind fans that Buffalo Trace does not sell its whiskeys online and to check out every site very carefully for its legitimacy and if it's legal to receive distilled spirits in your state. God bless those folks there at Buffalo Trace.
I mean, I thought you were going to stop. Buffalo Trace does not sell its whiskey. I was going to say to consumers. I thought that's where that was going. Because,
you know what? You're right. I mean, it doesn't sell it online. And as far as like where we live, most of the products don't make it here on the shelves either, right?
Nope.
So now, we give these guys a lot of heat at Buffalo Trace and at Sazerac, and I think rightly so. And what I really want them to see, and we've talked about this before, Bob, is do something about the fact that you're not getting enough whiskey out to meet demand, okay? And second of all, do something about all of these retailers that are jacking up the price on your product. You say that you don't have any control over that? Come on. There's things you can do because you're making people buy ungodly amount of other products just to get access to some of these bottles. So why don't you put
you're putting out a keg of Fireball now. Do people really want a fucking keg of Fireball? Seriously? You buy a pallet of kegs, you get one Thomas H. Handy at your store. Well,
I heard actually one in every 300 kegs we're going to have a bottle of BTAC in it, in the keg.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
you have to, once you drain the keg, a little tag pops up like a timer on a turkey, and then you just peel off the top. And it's like,
bottle just raises up. There you go.
Right. So for every 300 to 500, I forget what the number is, you could win a BTAC bottle. So anyway, Buffalo Trace, quit fucking around with these, these press releases that make you look like you're the good guy, and let's tackle the real issues that matter. More whiskey and stop inflating the prices. End of rant. Now, for those of us who don't let Buffalo Trace's lack of whiskey in the market keep them from drinking, you'll be pleased to know that a new study's come out that found a flaw in the previous study that said there was no safe level of drinking. All right, so let me restate that. A flaw has been found in the quote-unquote no safe level of drinking claim put out by a previous industry report. I missed that report. I don't think we reported on that report. I just want to keep saying report. But thank God, right? Because, now apparently one need not feel that the only safe alcohol intake is 0.
I don't think we ever felt that way.
I didn't, but obviously some people out there, but let this be now this empirical proof, right? That if you want to remain safe from the effects of alcohol, you don't have to abstain. It's okay to drink in moderation. Make sure you're a professional, do it right. So for those of you who were worried about this and take everything you read in the news to heart as fact, a little bit of good news in the current media landscape. All right. It's okay. You can go back to drinking. Unless you're in South Africa, because then you're just fucked.
Yeah, then you're screwed.
Absolutely. All right, so let's see what else. Oh, this is yours, Bob. Something I know how much you love a hard seltzer.
Yeah, well, don't I though? That's right. So when I saw this, I literally jumped for joy. Oh, it was fantastic. It says, "Is the hard seltzer craze turning sour?" This article came out earlier last month and said that definitely could be the conclusion to draw from the Boston Beer Company, who we know as the makers of Sam Adams. They were withdrawing their annual earnest forecast in the face of a sharp slowdown in that category, in which their product truly, they hold the second place in sales for that product in that category. It also said it expects to run up stock losses and write-offs from the hard seltzer category, and they're phasing to have to pay shortfall fees to brewers who produce the seltzer for them under contract. So the market for the hard seltzer craze is continued to experience decelerating growth trends since the July forecast, they said. Volumes could be no more than 100 million cases below the target that they put out in May. 100 million cases off. Now, I am not a mathematician, but 100 million case shortfall seems a little significant, Pops.
Yeah, it's a little more than a rounding error.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was just going to say, that kind of shortfall just doesn't happen at Sazerac.
No. No, it doesn't.
I mean, they plan those much better. They plan those much better. The shortfalls are not a surprise. I think maybe there's some inner company dialogue to be taking place there.
Well, earlier this year, St. Louis-based AB InBev, the world's biggest brewer of shitty beer, committed to spending $1 billion on expanding its production capability. Sorry, folks, you can't see Pops laughing in the background. Committed $1 billion. But Molson Coors, which has launched 3 hard seltzer brands since March of last year, announced that it would discontinue its Coors branded seltzer. So there's one less horrific rainbow bright throw up color that I got to look at in the liquor aisle.
See, I didn't even know Coors was making a carbonated water in a can.
Yeah. Yep. Everybody's doing it, but apparently not doing it as much as they were.
Man, well, I obviously not the demographic for canned seltzers, but I'm really curious. I think there'll be a good sociological study to be done of what the fuck happened. Like who was buying those? Why were they buying? Cabin fever?
With all the fucking flavored vodka 5-6 years ago. You go into a liquor store and you've got 24 different flavors of one brand of vodka, and now they're all in the clearance bin, and there's 4. It was everywhere. So this is just like that, but whiskey's still there.
That's right.
Growing.
Whiskey is forever,
growing, man.
Whiskey is forever.
Yeah. So the flavored seltzer. I was in the grocery store the other day. Got pumpkin spice fucking flavored seltzer and marsh s'mores flavored shit. And I was like, kiss my ass. I'm tired of seeing all this shit.
See, we make too many things for kids.
And I was saying, who's drinking this crap? Well, apparently not too many. So,
see, now that everybody has to go out and drink in person, they don't want to be seen drinking it.
See, there it is. That's right.
It's like, if you go back to Zima, right? Zima, whatever, people would love that shit when they drank at home, but they go out in public. I ain't being caught dead with that shit in my bar.
That's
in my
right.
hand.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's all this stuff is. It's just a repackaging of Zima.
There you go. All right, well, let's talk about a little bit more pleasant line of spirits, and we're going to hit a couple of the most recent whiskey releases being announced. Once again, this is not a all-inclusive list, but just a few that caught our eyes, and first one is the Bob Ross Happy Little Accident at Woodford Reserve that's resulted in a chocolate malt whisper bourbon.
What the fuck is a whisper bourbon?
It's a bourbon.
Do you drink it and it whispers to you, you paid too much for this shit? I mean, I don't know.
You will feel bad about drinking this tomorrow. No, well, apparently this happy little accident that they had at Woodford Reserve was that they were distilling some whiskey immediately following the production of what was ultimately released as the 2019 Masters Collection edition called Chocolate Malted Rye. And apparently some of the flavor notes carried over to the new distilled that was being made because somebody didn't clean the lines in the tanks properly, clearly. And so the result was a straight bourbon that contained hints of the chocolate malt. So a whisper in this case, Bob, refers to a hint, meaning that, hey, this whiskey doesn't taste like it should and kind of tastes like the shit we did. So what are we going to do with it? So they decided to release it. Now, we have seen these accidents before. Wild Turkey Forgiven is the one that always comes to mind to me.
I was going to say, when did this happen? When did they distill this whiskey at Woodford? It doesn't say, but I'm guessing it's probably 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, I don't know what the 2019 Masters collection was, but yeah, so we're talking a while ago. Yeah.
Talking a while ago. I swear, I thought I saw a video. I mean, that was the day that Eddie Russell took that visit out there to see Chris, wasn't it? And I don't know, maybe Eddie
leaned on the wrong lever.
Maybe Eddie pulled the wrong lever while he was walking by. I don't know.
Well, so they decided to bottle this, and you know, hey, listen, mistake or not, it's kind of, you know, always interesting to say, hey, we kind of screwed up a little bit, and we've got this thing we're going to release. But you have to think about it. They ran a lot of this, right? Because they're releasing it now. Of course, they took an opportunity for, hey, owning a potential mistake and doing something unique with it, right? And they've decided to release these at $49.99 a bottle, but it's a 375 milliliter bottle, so it's a half bottle. So we're talking about the equivalent of a $100 bottle of a happy little accident. Well, you know, Bob Ross would not be happy with that, but apparently his survivors would be.
You know what you do, folks? I haven't tasted this, but I'll tell you what you go get a bottle of Woodford double oaked for $50. Then you go get 2 pounds of chocolate from Kelly at Art Eatables in Louisville, and you're saving money, and you got a better chocolate and bourbon, and fuck it, and do that. So get some of those chocolate covered sea salt Majescas, a couple bags of those, and just pop them with that double oak, and to hell with a 375 for $50. That's right. You get more bourbon, get more chocolate, get better chocolate.
Well, here's the question. This is the question is, because of this happened, they weren't expecting it, right? Happy little accident. Does this mean that Woodford is now going to claim more than 200 flavors?
You know something? I don't know. Whisper Chocolate, I don't believe that was one of the 200 flavors. So is it 201 now?
Maybe.
You know, is it a dark and a milk chocolate and a semi-sweet? Is it 203?
But I'm going to take your Woodford double look. I'm going to raise you a little bit here. If you really want a whisper of chocolate. Now, once again, for anybody who's going to hit us with the technicality, yes, it's chocolate malt. We know chocolate malt isn't necessarily actually chocolate. We know. All right. But if you really want to hit a chocolate, take your Woodford double oak. You put it in make a chocolate milkshake with it. And that by itself is fucking amazing. Amazing.
No.
Then you're going to take a little bit of your Count chocolate cereal. You're going to put a little bit of that in there and top it off. And my friends, you've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a glass, and you can thank me later. Delicious.
No, I'll have a chocolate milkshake with Count Chocula topped on it and a side glass of Woodford.
Oh, dude. We put it is amazing in the shake.
See, I'm not one for putting whiskey into the food too often. I want it on the side. I want to taste it by itself. That's just something free. But you know something? This brings something else up. Pops and I want to thank everybody who's been out there sending us emails and supplies of the Monster cereal. I got 7 boxes of Monster cereal sitting in the house right now. So thank you very much, folks. You can continue to send those to Bob at Bourbon and Banter, though, if you would like to. We certainly will continue to take.
I was going to say, I
got everywhere now.
I got 2 pallets in my garage that showed up unannounced.
Yeah,
so I'll have to share some with you.
We're doing well on a Monster cereal, folks. Thanks.
Well, speaking of monsters, another great article came through. Sipping through spooky season and beyond, Tamworth Distilling announces relaunch of limited whiskey releases. So what are these limited spooky releases, Bob? Well, the first one, I start laughing once I even get into this. So the first one is the Grave Robber Unholy Rye. And the second one is the Deerslayer Venison Whiskey. Now, you know, I'm reading from the press release here. Tamworth Distilling, the New Hampshire distillery specializing in scratch-made wilderness to table craft spirits. I love that. Wilderness to table.
Wilderness to craft.
I mean, I'm thinking things like roadkill, dandelion.
I'm thinking this is dog food. This is something I should be giving my pups. I don't know.
So the Grave Robber Unholy Rye is a limited edition rye whiskey that's infused with maple syrup extracted from unmarked graveside maple trees on Great Hill Farm in New Hampshire. Now these trees, right? So just imagine these evidently it's lore in that part of the country that you don't mess with these trees because the roots are entangled with the graves. So they're tapping these trees and taking the maple syrup and putting it into the whiskey. I don't know what it tastes like.
So
it's
there's
fucking hilarious.
a little bit of Ann Ethel in the whiskey. Is that what you're trying
That's
to
right.
tell me?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Let's hope those graves didn't leach into the trees. That's all I'm saying. And then the Deerslayer Venison whiskey is the undoubtedly non-vegan viral spirit infused with genuine, locally farmed venison. Now this one kills me.
Who the fuck's idea is this shit? This is some dumb redneck hunter.
Hold on. I'm
gonna
bring this full circle for you. So the whiskey apparently is distilled with slow smoked red deer venison and seasonal ingredients including porcini mushrooms, cranberries, juniper berries, and green peppercorns. Ideal for venison lovers and non-vegans alike. The savory and smoky notes characterize this one-of-a-kind spirit with subtle spice on the palate up front and a lingering, gamey finish. You know what this sounds like, Bob, right? This sounds like that Cleveland Thanksgiving whiskey.
Yeah, but see, you don't have the starch, you don't have the carbs.
I'll just pour it on some mashed potatoes, man.
You're looking for the potatoes, you're looking for the pumpkin pie, the pumpkin bread, the rolls, the stuffing. You're not. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Well, I'll tell you what. The master distiller from Cleveland has about a month and a half to deliver on his Thanksgiving bourbon, right? Because he said he was going to do it. If not, I think we reach out to Tamworth and say, make it happen, folks. I mean, they're 2/3 of the way there.
If we reach out to Tamworth, that's not what I'm fucking saying. Trust me.
Well,
are you kidding me with this shit?
Well, folks, if you're looking for wilderness to table whiskey expressions, like I know so many of you are, check out Tamworth and their Grave Robber Unholy Rye, along with the Deerslayer Venison whiskey. I tried the Unholy Rye, right? Because it's just maple infused rye. I'll give that a shot. The Venison whiskey, you know what? Someone sends me a sample. I'll try it. We'll try it on the next podcast. If anybody from Tamworth is listening, Bob and I'll do it. I'll make Bob do it. I'll give him some donuts as a follow-up chaser.
You're going to have to, because I'm going to have to get that taste out of my mouth after that shit. Venison whiskey, kiss my ass.
Well, as if that doesn't leave a bad enough taste in your mouth, everyone in the industry was shocked this week when they heard that Buffalo Trace announced that George T. Stagg would not be part of this fall's annual Buffalo Trace Antique Collection release. Apparently, the highly sought-after George T. Stagg, or GTS for short, didn't basically come up to snuff. I guess there's a lack of a better word, that was tasting off, and they decided that, you know what, we just can't release it, but that's okay. Apparently next year, the whiskey for next year is going to be just fine, at least now, barring any unforeseen changes, which makes you, when you kind of do the math, you realize that Buffalo Trace is known for a long time that they weren't going to be releasing this, right? This wasn't like a bottle of the ninth inning release in my understanding of how things work, because there's so much Q&A that goes on, or quality control, I should say, going on with whiskey tasting, paneling, and things of that nature. But Bob, you tell me that apparently all of my guesses and everyone else's pontifications about what could have happened at Buffalo Trace to prevent GTS from being released this year is off. There's actually something else at the root of its absence this year.
Yeah, well, I saw that story and I'm like, yeah, okay, really? Do we really believe this bullshit? So, using the super sleuth network of investigators that we have here at Bourbon and Banter, and really calling in some strong favors. We've broken quite a few stories, but this one, they had to dig deep on this. So in an odd reversal of fortune, Sazerac was recently slapped with a lawsuit from Stag's Leap Vineyard out in Napa for their plans for the 2021 George T. Stagg release. So that is reported to be the real reason.
All right, so Buffalo
behind their decision.
Sazerac is getting sued instead of Sazerac suing someone.
Correct. Yeah. So I don't know has that ever happened successfully? I don't know. But yeah, so that's why they're not releasing the George T. Stagg as part of the antique collection this year. My sources tell me that when Buffalo Trace realized how uniquely this year's Stagg was aging and maturing, coming in at 178.4 proof, as first reported by Bourbon and Banter, they wanted to capitalize on the release. So they decided they were going to pull it from the antique collection altogether for this year and offer it as a very special release of E.H. Taylor called Stag's Leap, referencing the leap in proof.
I get it.
Because it would be the highest proof bourbon ever released by by Buffalo Trace, dwarfing previous Stag releases by 20 plus proof points. Even, Stag and Stag Junior have
Some
never
hot
been
shit, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, 178.4. So when they went to file a label with the TTB, Sazerac triggered the legal team at Stag's Leap Vineyard out in Napa. Great wines, by the way. Sazerac was insisting that trademark law protected George T. Stagg because of the difference in spelling. There's only one G in Stag's Leap. There are two G's in George T. Stagg. And because they've never been legally challenged by anyone successfully. So I guess they're getting a little cocky over there at Sazerac.
Yep.
So Buffalo Trace went forward with label mock-up and even some bottling before being given a cease and desist letter from noted spirits attorney Mal Ort of the Wisconsin-based law firm Schwartz and Ort. Ort's actions on behalf of the vineyard were kept quiet because apparently Sazerac agreed to supply Stag's Leap Vineyards with BTAC barrels after bottling to age their highly acclaimed wines. So that's why they kept it quiet. Apparently they're going to be able to pull out some, Stag's Leap aged in a Stag barrel eventually. For
Interesting.
Samples of the E.H. Taylor release that they had planned, the 178.4, hazmat bottling, they were locked away for future release and, once the marketing gets all figured out. But during a recent trip to Kentucky, some of the Bourbon and Banter investigative team toured Buffalo Trace. Now, this is the part I could not believe, but we know them. We can't mention them by name here, but they were left alone in the research lab, in the Buffalo Trace research lab. Harlan Wheatley stepped out to take a 3-person group off to another tour. The 3-person group had apparently purchased 85% of the Wheatley vodka on the market. So Harlan was really excited to meet these folks. And they were left alone in there, and the team noticed the 178.4 sample sitting over in a corner, and our investigators were able to snag a sample. That's what led to this breakout story and the breakout review that we recently posted on bourbonbanter.com. So when we reached Buffalo Trace for comment, reps denied everything, but internal documents that I have obtained reveal the entire plan, which was spearheaded by Mark Brown's second in command. And I'm not sure if this is it Hout Brown, Pops, Hout or Hote? I'm not sure how this is pronounced.
Oh, no. That's a family name. It's just Hot Brown. It's a Kentucky thing.
Oh, it's a Kentucky. Okay. Well, so Hot Brown. Apparently this was all Hot's idea. So that's the real reason that there's no George T. Stagg coming out this year in the BTEC.
Well, once again, kudos to the resources that are out there to make this story happen. I mean, I was curious when Erin posted her review. I was really curious how she got the information about this year's release. I mean, with commentary such as even a mere drop will grant you a chance at immortality. You can't make that shit up without actually tasting it. So
correct.
And I just want to, just for clarification, because I don't want to be subject to a lawsuit, that these were, when we say members of the Bourbon and Banter investigative team, this is our snitches. This is not any of the writers for the website. So these folks will remain anonymous forever. And we appreciate their ability to have sticky fingers and be willing to share information that they glean from all manner of methods and sources. So thank you to those folks.
The folks out there have met our team members. We ain't sneaking around for shit. Right. We are not sneaky fuckers. You can either hear us or smell us coming at least 5 miles away.
I'm pretty sure all of our photos are in the break room saying do not allow admittance.
Yeah, do not allow entry. That's right.
That's right. Exactly. So, well, there you go, folks. I mean, the truth, if you will, behind George T. Stagg and why it's not part of the 2021 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection release. And, you can't get news like this anywhere else. So remember, we're the most honest, the most mimicked, right? And the only bourbon podcast that doesn't tolerate any bullshit. So if you have a tip or some inside information and you'd like us to break it to the world, drop us a note at podcast@bourbonbanter.com. All right, folks, as if the rest of the podcast wasn't enough, it's time for Bourbon Bullshit.
Bourbon Bullshit. That's right. It's everybody's favorite part of everybody's favorite podcast in all of bourbon.
All right, folks, so we're going to start off here. We're going to ease into some bullshit, right? So pull your waders up high. You ready? Here we go. Recently, Matt Self, one of our esteemed senior contributors for Bourbon and Banter, wrote a post called Top 5 Most Overrated Bourbons. And man, did he strike a chord with this article. Fucking fantastic. If you haven't read it, make sure you head over to the website and track that one down. Top 5 Most Overrated Bourbons. And I thought it'd be just fun, really quick to run through this list because I think everyone deserves to kind of hear this. And I might quote a little bit of what he says, but what was really cool about how Matt approached this article was he not only called out 5 of the most overrated bourbons, but he offered up some alternatives. And I think that's really cool because it's really easy to throw stones at broken windows, but to follow up and say, here's a better window. It's a classy move by Matt for sure. So number 5 most overrated bourbon came in with Garrison Brothers Cowboy Bourbon with an MSRP of $219 at a 131.3 proof. Bob, you agree with this rating?
Do I? Well, my only thing about it is I kind of questioned where he put it in the list. It might have been a little closer to the top for me, but I absolutely agree with the premise that that's a bullshit bottle. $219 for that fucking horse shit.
So you think it should have been closer to number 1?
Closer to number for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
I would put it closer to number 1.
I'm going to quote Matt here. Nothing says, oh my fucking God, like 5-year-old Texas bourbon north of 2 Benjamins. I don't have anything against Texas per se, but these releases come in hot and loud with one note punch that screams, don't mess with Texas whiskey. This release shows that if you put wax on it, you can charge whatever you want.
And then you put a medal around it so you can slap the shit out of whoever bought the damn thing for you.
That's right. Bob and I actually reviewed this whiskey on the craft shoot a couple episodes ago. And let's just say it didn't do anything to endear us to Garrison or to Texas bourbon for that matter. So we are wholeheartedly agree with this. And we've also learned that chocolate cannot save this whiskey either. But that's a discussion for some other time. So if you want an alternative, check out Maker's Mark Cask Strength. So for 1/5 the price and with the extra year of aging, you can get wax dip cask strength bottle that is readily available and much more enjoyable.
And we're going to read this whole thing because it's just beautifully written and it really delivers on this particular bottle. Number 4 is Copper Tongue Orphan Barrel, MSRP of $100 at 89.8 proof. And Matt says you must appreciate the chutzpah of the Diageo marketing team to continue to roll out increasingly lower quality products with a pretty label and watch them disappear from store shelves. Let's pause for a moment to let that sink in. My favorite marketing twist on this gem of a 16-year Dickel is the brand recommendation to drink it neat or thoughtfully garnished with a slice of pear. Yes, a slice of pear. Well, if you haven't been disappointed by Dickel yet, this is your chance. I'm somewhat shocked the MSRP is so low, but I plead with you to just step away and let that snake bite someone else.
That's fucking awesome.
Really, that's awesome. I mean,
if you haven't,
he hits it on the fucking head.
If you haven't been disappointed by Dickel yet, oh my God. I almost lost a half a glass of whiskey when I read it when he first submitted that for posting. As
garnished with a slice of pear.
Drink it neat. Wow. How original. Well, as an alternative, Matt suggests you check out Chattanooga Whiskey 111. It's $26 at 111 proof. And I can tell you for once that this is a fantastic recommendation. He says if you're looking for a Tennessee bourbon product that will tantalize your palate, leave a little extra in the bank account, and reserve all of your disappointment for fantasy football team, this is the one to try. And I've had several members in the Bourbon and Banter Slack community ask about this one and buy this one, and no one's been disappointed with it yet. So great recommendation and perfect alternative to number 4 in the list.
That actually made that particular number on this list even better for me, was seeing what he recommended to replace it with. Because Chattanooga's doing some great things.
Absolutely.
For $26 too for a craft whiskey that you don't want to throw through the window. Come on.
Amen.
You know.
All right, number 3, Old Forester Birthday Bourbon, $130 suggested price at 104 proof. All right, here we go. This is sure to ruffle some feathers, but even though everybody loves Jackie, this annual release always overhypes and underdelivers. The funny-looking commemorative bottle cannot save the average juice inside. In a normalized supply and demand world, I would walk by this 10 times out of 10, sitting on the shelf and reach for a 2-pack of the alternative below. And that alternative being Old Forester 1920, which is $60 at 115 proof. And you know what? He had some balls for putting this one out there, right? Because everybody loves their birthday bourbon, right? Most people have never had it, but everybody loves it. I've been a long-time fan, but I haven't had one in probably 7 years because I refuse to play the game and pay the price. But what I really want to mention in this one is that this got a lot of people a little riled up. A lot of people are like, oh, but I love that. And they missed the point. The point is this is overrated. We're not saying these whiskeys aren't good. Well, maybe except for the Dickel, but they're just overrated. They're overhyped, right? But what I really appreciated was Jackie Zykan, who we were referring to on Instagram, posted a little story response and says, I see you, Bourbon and Banter. I see you. We love Jackie. She's a St. Louis native, so she's one of ours for Bob and I both being in St. Louis. And she knows what we do here. So we appreciate her taking that in stride.
Yeah, and that's what's important to remember is not bad, at least not this one. The previous 2 on the list, fuck them. But this one, you know, you're looking at, you can buy 2 bottles of 1920. Now, I am not an Old Forester fan, and Pops knows this. Of all the bottles in the Old Forester line, the 1920 is the one that I actually would drink if I was to drink an Old Forester product. And you're getting it, not only are you getting it at half the price, less than half the price, but you're also getting about an additional 10 to 15 points of proof on it too.
Yeah.
Depending on the year you go after.
Right. Now, but if this is turned you sour on any of the bottles of birthday bourbon that you have, you can feel free to send them my way and donate them to our collection. We'll give them a good home. We'll treat them. We'll drink them. I'm just not going to pay that price and stand in line. So
you may have to build a new shelf for them just to fit that ridiculously shaped bottle. But
yeah, I'd say I'd replace my Willet pot still, but you know that I don't have any of that. Moving on. You want to do number 2?
The Old Fitz Decanter, MSRP at $110 and 100 proof. So, man, Matt says those pretty decanter bottles are so attractive. With the Old Fitz name, feels like you're buying a piece of bourbon royalty. He really loves almost everything that Heaven Hill puts out. Still, every Old Fitz Decanter series release has been a dud, and this fall's special edition will be no different. It's not a bad decanter at $110, but I bet you won't see it for less than $250 in many stores. So if you actually do see it ever at all. His alternative, which I love, buy half a case of Evan Williams bottled and bond for $19 for 100 proof. Just look for the white label and boxes stacked floor to ceiling, and you can be in and out of there before the next tater asks for Blanton's. So
fantastic.
You know, you can get Evan Williams bottled and bond in Missouri. You can get it for $15, or less.
No, fantastic alternative. He is preaching, and I am sitting for the full sermon. All right. So speaking of Blanton's, number 1, Blanton's, the most overrated bourbon on the list. MSRP $60 at 93 proof. All right, here we go, folks. And I quote, speaking of blends, this could arguably be the most overrated bourbon of the new millennium. The sheer magnitude of verbal requests that I've heard in stores makes my skin crawl. Nowadays, I find as many stores with posted notices about Blanton's as Pappy. Y'all know you can purchase that set of horse toppers for less than the MSRP of a single bottle, right? For those of you new to the world of bourbon, Blanton's was the first commercially available single barrel product on the market. It's certainly not the best single barrel on the market anymore, but Sazerac marketing wizards put that unique shaped bottle and set of horse stoppers spelling out Blanton's to work, frothing a tater frenzy that has no end in sight. Now, I could not agree with this more. But just for those of you who like a little historical accuracy, it was indeed the first commercially available single barrel. Word is that Elmer T. Lee himself designed the bottle and the concept of the topper. Now, Bland's, our Sazerac's marketing folks took it a step further and recreated the toppers a little bit to put the letters on it so you could spell out Bland's, right? Creating that frothing frenzy with the taters that are out there. But, you know, we have to remember, not a bad product. It's just really overrated. So all of you folks that have been commenting and chiming in that you agree with the list except for Blanton's, Remember, he's not saying Blanton sucks. He's saying that it's overrated, it's overhyped, that there's better alternatives than that. And speaking of alternatives, his top recommendation, which I can wholeheartedly get behind, is Four Roses Single Barrel. $40, 100 proof. We're talking about the retail version, right? Honestly, there are half a dozen single barrel products I prefer over blends, but this guy is always around. Aged a couple of years longer than blends and almost always overlooked. There are only two types of people, those who agree with me and those who are still trying to get their hands on the bottle of blends. Drink curious, y'all, but don't buy the hype of the pretty bottle this year. And he's absolutely right. You cannot tell anyone who's never had a bottle of their own blends they shouldn't buy one. But once they have it and they open it, you're pretty much right. They're not going to go much further.
You know, I can certainly, second that Four Roses by when people ask me about Blanton's. They say, I want to give this as a gift. Do you know anything about Blanton's? I said, yeah, go buy Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, which was the second single barrel ever released on the market right after Blanton.
Yep.
Always around. It's $55. It's, there are, and he said there's a half a dozen things he'd rather buy. And I feel the same way. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we've talked about this before multiple times on this very program. So,
well, one thing that I left out of this list, which was fantastic, was Matt did refer to that some guy who's just collecting the hell out of blends, not even drinking it. And I hadn't seen this before, but apparently, Bob, this sparked a little bit of fire within you. So why don't you explain to our fine listeners what the fuck's going on?
Well, so there's a guy that Matt references in that piece that has $100,000 collection of Blantons.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's $100,000 collection of Blantons, but it's not for drinking. He doesn't even care about the drinking. He doesn't drink it. The quote in the article, I don't even drink it or like it for the flavors. It's all about the collectability. I see people post it all over the place, wanting it, standing in line all day and missing out on a bottle. If you want it, you just got to know where to look. And this guy, I just want to, if I ever run into this guy, I just want to smack the shit out. He travels to Japan. He said he's all in on Blanton's because he doesn't have maybe two other bourbons in his house at most. He's not a well-rounded bourbon collector. His boss suggested it, gave it to him one year, and he liked it. And he liked, his quote was, he gave it to me as a gift, and I liked the horse toppers and collecting the letters like most people. Fucking moron. So this brought me to the internet and Googling it. And he stumbled into photos of all the other varieties and the Japanese releases. He travels to Japan. He brings stuff home. At one time, he brought back 28 bottles. So we talked before as well about people who have collections where 90% of the bottles are never opened. That's this guy, except it's all Blantons. And then they ask him how long he's been collecting. About 2 years. But I spent $100,000 in 2 years on collecting this shit. So I just,
you know what? I don't know if I feel better or worse that he's not really a big bourbon drinker. I probably feel better because he just fell into it because he likes the look of it and he sees it as collectible. And while I think it's a shame because that's $100,000 worth of blends that other people aren't going to get to enjoy, at least it's not on top of all this other shit, right? So, I mean, I still think it's absolutely nuts and a big pile of BS, but at least he's not doing that with every single whiskey he can get his hand on because, as you know, at Bourbon and Banter here, we want people to drink their whiskey, and having backups of your favorite, that's cool. I do it, right? But let's open that shit up and let's drink that bourbon. And I hope this guy at some points is like, you know what? I need some friends. I need to get out and pop that Blanton's over and tell you what, if he's listening, somebody gets this podcast in front of him, we'll help you sort that out. We'll invite the right people and we'll help you fix the problem. But
yeah, if he was drinking it, I'd still think it's ridiculous, but you're drinking it. Okay. Doesn't even fucking care what it tastes. Come on.
Well, let's move on to the last item in our bourbon bullshit today. This is a
We told you we were going to do this.
This is a landmark day for us. Bob and I have recently upped our insurance policies, life insurance policies. We've gotten clearance from our doctors. We've had our mental health checked, not 2 times, but 3. And we're finally ready. We were able to, through our sources, because they are crafty, those sources of ours, obtain a bottle of the infamous Slapdick Agave whiskey. That's right, folks. You are getting a Bourbon and Banter exclusive here. We are going to sacrifice our bodies, our big, beautiful, donut-fed bodies, for science. And we're going to try Slapdick Agave whiskey. Now, if you're wondering what the fuck is this and what's the big deal, you need to go back to the last podcast. But for a quick refresh, if you will, Slapdick Agave whiskey is produced by Coach Jason Brown. And he apparently is kind of an asshole because one of our good friends in the industry made a comment when she got in on Monday at work and had a bottle of this on her desk. He took a photo and said, "Happy Monday, y'all," because she found the name curious. And that's all she said. Well, not soon after that, Coach decided to descend on her and attack her personally and make really offensive remarks to her. And it sparked an industry-wide discussion, and soon Slapdick found itself without a distributor, being removed from shelves, and the whole industry stepping up for our friend and letting people know that it's time for the industry to change. So that's all we're going to say about that aspect of it. But we thought today we would dedicate our fact to, all right, so this guy's got a product, the name's stupid, he's kind of a dickhead, asshole, and out of tune with the modern world and how to treat women. But let's look past that and find out, is this product really worth anybody's attention, name aside? So, first of all, Slapdick Agave whiskey. And I'm going to read from the website. Slapdick Agave whiskey is one of a kind, distilled with my own input and hand-selected ingredients. Just as I was on Last Chance U, it's a TV reality show, this spirit is enthusiastic, edgy, and genuine as I am, and just as rugged and rough, but yet so very smooth. A winning tradition that will last forever.
So let me ask you something. Do you want to trust a whiskey named Slapdick that is hand-selected?
You know, I
selected by Slapdick himself.
I would give him bonus points if this whiskey had been hand slapped personally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but you wouldn't be drinking it.
All right, let's be very clear. First of all, agave whiskey is not whiskey.
It's not a thing. No, this is corn whiskey flavored with agave nectar.
All right. And you know, we should have invited Wade Woodardarn to give us the TTB breakdown in this label.
No, I don't need to be put through that. Come on, Pops.
But I just don't want to do the work. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's get to the tasting because let's nose it first. Oh, that looks fun.
Yeah, well, I'm
half your beard, half your mustache just disappeared in fiery flash.
Yeah, no, you're gonna have to nose it for a bit.
Oh no, there's plenty on the nose. It's all corn whiskey. It's not a good thing. Super sweet.
Yeah, it's very. I'm just getting a bunch of ethanol. Yeah, one note, and it's not a good one.
Yeah, you've got that corn whiskey sweetness, you know, with no dimensionality to it. The ethanol that Bob's referring to it, and there's something sort of sweetly artificial about it. Nothing that says "drink me." Oh, and I should mention the color in this thing. Holy crap! I think Bob just died, folks. Holy shit! He just passed out. Wait, he's come. Oh. Hold on, he's coming to. He's coming to. Bob. Oh, Bob, God, talk to me. Walk to the light. Walk to the light.
That's Jesus. That's off. Now, Pops will tell you. Yes, obviously we've talked about this, but we're tasting this. We're giving this a fair shot. That is horrid. That is.
I haven't even got the tasting yet. Oh my God, I'm afraid what's going to happen.
No, see, I should shut up. Pops, go ahead.
All right, here we go. And first of all, I should mention that this color on this whiskey is probably the lightest "quote unquote" whiskey I've drank in a long time.
Yeah, it's like a light blonde guitar. You know that very, very see through. You could read the newspaper through this, no problem.
What the fuck?
right?
Okay.
It's like somebody dumped a bunch of sugar.
It tastes like
Oh,
watered down tea with like liquefied saccharin and a little bit of like grain neutral spirit thrown in for kicker.
that's I could not have said that more perfectly. That's exactly what it's got that fake sweetener, that artificial sweetener taste.
Wow.
And you're right. Yeah, it tastes like watered down tea.
I think it was like, wasn't it Steak and Shake years ago? You go in and they'd have a bottle of the pepperoncini sauce in the thing, and then they had a bottle of the liquid saccharin sweetener next to it back in the like 80s.
Just hope you don't pick the wrong one.
I think you're better off the pepperoncinis in this thing. All right, I got to go back because this is just
bad, man. This is just bad.
It's like, yeah, it's like watered down sweetened tea with bad liquor in it.
You know what? So here's what I think is on the finish. If you have like a 1987 solder desk, like in your child's room, they've moved out years ago, but you still have that desk in there, and somebody puts one of those old 80s style TVs on it and it cracks it. The dust that pours out of the middle of that, pressed board, that's what the finish is. It reminds me, I read something one time that said, it tastes like old, it tastes like cardboard, not new, fresh, clean Amazon cardboard, but old, dirty U-Haul cardboard. So this has got a fake sawdust, a pressed wood sawdust kind of thing on the finish, saccharin, grain neutral spirit, light tea, ethanol. This is nothing that you would ever want to give anybody that you would remotely ever want to speak to again.
Holy cow. Now,
that's bad.
That's bad. And the fact that he, on the label, pairs a glass of this on the largest set of fake ice I've ever seen in a glass, but he pairs it with a cigar, and he smokes a cigar all the time. So the idea is that that this is a manly drink, and you're going to sit down and pair it with a cigar and whatnot. And he also sells cigars, I think, too. He's got his name on everything out there. Folks, we have an issue with most celebrity products because it's a money grab. And I don't really want to put Coach JB into the celebrity category, but he is in some ways, even with a lowercase c. But for God's sake, there are so many things wrong with this, from his attitude and the way he treats women to the quality of this product and the fact that anybody, and there are people that I've seen his social phone, a lot of people love this product, and this is what's happened. They need to go back to seltzer. They need to go back to drinking the hard seltzer instead of this. Because
if you've been wondering what I would drink a hard seltzer over, this is it.
And I think that's it, right? And you know what? I will take a keg of Fireball over this. I don't like Fireball because I don't want to drink sweet stuff, but I'll tell you what, Fireball cinnamon, it's on point. If you like cinnamon, it's a good choice. This, this is a Frankenstein monster right here, and it's a poor Frankenstein monster. So,
typically when I get stuff that is that sweet, I say it's good over pancakes. This would ruin pancakes.
Oh man, you know what this would be good over? An engine that needs to be degreased. Actually, there's so much sweetener, and then it probably gum up the engine.
Probably would.
You know what?
I'd be curious if you take a couple ounces of that and get a really small pot, boil it off. I wonder just how much of a caramel you'd be left with all the sugar that's in there.
I'm going to use it to attract ants and set them on fire. Well, folks, Coach JB made several comments to people that they should not badmouth this product until they tried it. You're right, Coach. We've tried your product. We're badmouthing it. We're sorry, but you know what? Stop the money grab. Take some classes on sensitivity. Try again. Happy to help you. Well, never mind. Don't call us. We'll call you. But folks, avoid this product like the plague, like if you needed a reason to. But we're not going to let it rest, right, Bob? Bob and I are just two opinions of many. So we got an idea in mind, and we think others need to have the privilege of trying this product and sharing their feedback. So here's what we're going to do. And I didn't even share this entirely with Bob because I like to surprise him. He has a very sheltered life. He doesn't get a lot of surprises. We're going to have a
Come
couple.
on, man.
People need to know, Bob. You need to get out of your bourbon barrel. Anyway, we're going to give samples of this to a couple people on our Bourbon and Banter team. And I'm going to pick a couple people from our Slack community. And we're going to do a live tasting of this product and talk about it. That should be fun. That should be good for a few views at least. So if you're in the community or not yet, apply. You might just get an opportunity to chime in on Slapdick Real Agave Whiskey, folks. You don't get opportunities like this from anybody else but Bourbon and Banter. So there you go. Bob and I are going to go immediately after this and visit our healthcare provider. I'm actually going to go take a cheese grater to my tongue and try to clear it off. That's actually what I'm going to do, followed by a chaser, a fireball, and then some premium quality whiskeys after that. So there you guys, folks. That's your bourbon bullshit for the week. And if that didn't entertain you, well, I can't help you.
Folks, we got through it. You didn't know that we would, but we actually got through it, Pops. We have made it to the end of the show. I think our tongues, we'll get them serviced, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, well, that's it for the 19th episode, and Bob and I appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully made you laugh along the way. As always, if you have feedback or an idea for a podcast, drop us a note at podcast@bourbonbanter.com. And more importantly, if you like what you're listening to, head to Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform. Give us a review, follow us, and let us know what you like best. The more that you talk about us on those platforms, the more people will discover us, and we can continue to bring you the most honest podcast in all of bourbon. And remember, folks, if you're going to drink
curious.
Well, what's your preference?
Bourbon, if you got it.
Bourbon from Kentucky.
I should certainly fucking hope so.